Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Erica-Jayne, Erica-Jayne, Erica-Jayne. Oh, exciting, exciting, exciting. How are you, Erica?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? I see you're still being a woodman.
I'm still, oh, hey, I haven't changed it. That's terrible. That's 2 days already then. Oh, that's no good. That's no good. No good. That's no good at all.
Beena.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We are good. We are good. And it's a proof that we are lazy because you can see that on the background.
I think I'm not sure I would ever describe either of you as lazy. You are very hard.
We try sometimes. We try. We have to practice. We have to work at being lazy.
Exactly. It requires a lot of hard work to be lazy.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah, because first you have to leave your work pending. and then create all the fuss about that. Oh, it's so much work to do. Then okay, I don't have that energy to do those. So that's how you become a real lazy person.
You gotta get that moaning and groaning and complaining. You gotta get that down. There's a skill to it. It's gotta be just right.
That's true.
It needs a lot of effort to be lazy.
Just was discussing a nice idea. Beena, we also have to share now. Beena was, she's doing her art classes and, just practice the art. So she shares. So she was doing this landscape. You'll have to share, Beena. You'll have to show the landscape.
I already shared with Erica. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But anyway, so I said, we got to put a little hedgie in there. So she did. She put a little hedgie in there, a little tiny hedgie. So, yeah. So I said, to school and I said to ask the teacher, about drawing this kind of cartoon, but she's going to be doing portraits next and expression stuff. So then it will come. Yeah. So because I've been keen for at least anybody just to illustrate hedgie, because I actually wrote out in the story, what the picture represents, so that since I can't draw it, all right, at least you can visualize the picture.
Right.
So then I thought, well, her two nieces are just too magical. Anyway, they into drawing as well. And Beena was just saying they had a wall that needs to be repainted, and that was seepage. Anyway, they asked if they could draw on it, and they did. And they drew this vine on the wall, and they're like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. So just like really cool. But before that, I was just saying, so, it would be fun to draw with them, Beena to draw and do it with them. But then I thought, read the story. And since I already went to the effort to detail each picture, to describe the picture, that, they can draw this picture together and then continue reading. And I thought, wow, this is like a cool thing to do for an actual storybook, to write it and then you leave a blank page with the thing to, and you can even maybe do, like the first scene is hedgie listening to the animals talking about the cats and what do cats see in boxes, and there's a description of hedgie listening to the other animals, that you can maybe just make sort of a barnyard scene, and then the kid gets to fill it in and add to it. So it's just, you kind of started it, so you can kind of hint a little bit. And then I thought also you can leave multiple pages open. So you have 6 pages for the pictures, so that the next time you read the story, the kid draws a different picture or slight variation or improves on the previous one. And also, as you go through this, because the stories, even though it's a simple story, at least the way I write them, there's nuance, there's moreness to it. They're representing character and hedgie's attitude and mindset, which is all positive stuff. Now, Beena was saying too, okay, when you're doing an expression, okay, let's say befuddled or confused or whatever, and because I remember one of the pictures with hedgie with a befuddled expression on his face. What does befuddled mean? And some kids might, it's kind of confused, and they may have fear as part of that, because, well, when you don't know, you get into trouble. But then you can say, no, there's no fear in this. This is hedgie. Says, no, he's okay with knowing. He's curious, and it's not a problem if you don't know. Now you get the education, because you get the opportunity to go into detail because of the drawing. Yeah. So that's how I want to do the book now.
I love that. I love that
for me. And it's a whole new concept with stories, Because think of it, you read the story like that, it's what, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, you know, maybe if there are a lot of, but if you're drawing, that's a whole afternoon's project. So it's much more time efficient. Plus, the depth that you're going to get out of a story like this is just, you know, tremendously more. It's now becomes a subtle educational project, you know, of articulation, insight, into discernment, looking at moreness. It's just too fantastic. Yeah. So, very cool. Very cool. Very cool.
And if we really, yeah, and if you want to go in detail, we can actually explain to children that what shame and guilt is and what is inappropriate shame and guilt is. So we can actually, like you can say that kind of remedy that in childhood, that you don't need to feel guilt and shame and fear and all the confusion and know it all. That kind of, like as it was in the discussion today, what sort of stuff we can share through this story and the drawing, that okay, now what is the confusion and what is shame and what is guilt. So it can go deeper more, of course, about the understanding of feelings and beliefs.
Right. And the other reason why I really like this is because each time you're doing that drawing, the kids, you are getting to see a repeat back and a takeaway combined.
Mm-hmm.
It's there built in. How do you know what the kid is getting out of the story? They might just, oh, that's cool, but you have no idea what's going on inside their head. I remember when I heard Jack and the Beanstalk. When I heard the mother throw away the beans, I'm like, what? You know, well, first of all, Jack, it's like, seriously, dude, you know, I thought Jack was just idiotic, but then the mother goes and wastes the beans.
Right.
That's all you've got left. These poor people, and I thought, come on. So, but nobody ever knew this sort of what was going on inside my head when they heard the story, you know. So when you see them draw it, you get to see how they are comprehending the story. And this is invaluable. As to me, it's a whole different way of teaching. You know, the same as repeat backs and takeaways are, but particularly for kids, because they don't have the articulation to express. But you do see a lot in kids. And, you know, obviously all the like school counselors and that, one of the first things they ask, especially for the younger kids, is to see drawings, to get an insight into what's going on with the kids. It's a diagnostic practice, in other words. But why can't you use it as an educational practice? See, test, check the comprehension of the kid. Otherwise, you have no idea. So, wow. Wow. I'm excited to share this with Kay now.
Well, I was going to say, Mom used to do stuff like that, not necessarily directly when they were reading the story, I don't think, but I know she used to do things like that in the classroom. Stories that they would read, you know, they would like read the story together, and then afterward, you know, all the kids, she would have them draw, you know, different things from the story.
I like the idea of them illustrating the story like this, because, you know, each scene that I've delineated represents the portion of the text. So it's an illustration of that, and it's going to now demonstrate again, you know, not only your takeaway of it, because look, there's instructions to do it, but also you're going to see their personal flair and insight and how they depict things. It's too fantastic. It's too fantastic. So yeah, I'm keen to share. How does Kay draw herself? Not that it matters. I'm just curious. I saw your drawings and it's like, wow, brilliant, really awesome.
How does she draw herself? You said?
Yeah. I mean, if her drawings like her math.
I didn't see any pictures of the ones that she drew, but she did for every booklet. She did a picture of herself, and it was really
cool. Wow.
It always
so she has.
She would have her hair different, have different clothes on.
Wow. This is Kay herself was doing the drawings. So she can draw. All right, cool, brilliant. Wow.
You'll have to. She has all the booklets. You'll have to ask her to show you some of the pictures.
She shared one of your drawings with
us. Yes, landscape. Yes.
That was fantastic. Well, Beena was showing her landscape, so of course Kay had to brag with with Erica-Jayne's landscape. She didn't do it in that way. I'm just teasing.
No,
but it was really cool. The landscape was fantastic. It's just brilliant.
Was it like a barn with like a fence?
Yes.
That was. I think I decided that was from like 6th or 7th grade. I think, which was funny.
Wow.
That was really good because at first it was to draw that 3D barn house or something, which is again, it was very, very precise. And that was the most prominent thing for me. And then the fence because you need to draw that in proportion and how they are fading away, and it was really good. Of course, now you will draw, then you will add more details to that.
Right.
But basic drawing was really good. I was like, wow, I'm just learning now.
I used to love drawing and painting. I did that all the time when I was a kid, and I don't do nearly as much of it now as I would like to, but I used to love, and I suck at drawing like cartoon type stuff. Like that's not, I'm not good at that kind of thing. But more realistic type stuff, I love shapes and
Wow.
I love
this is amazing because
we're gonna do some drawing stuff. So go ahead, Beena. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that Amy is so good in drawing cartoons. Amazing. The proportion, the expressions, she depicts everything into that. But she actually really big time struggling with it still life.
And drawing boxes.
It's like that's really common. I think it should, like, your brain either really gravitates toward one side or the other.
Yes. Yeah.
It's right brain, left brain, absolutely. Yeah. It's so funny though, because because Amy can draw cartoons. It's, oh, Amy, you can draw Hedgie. She said, yeah, I did, but I never got to see any of it.
Yeah,
and of
she
course,
never showed this to Sil and to me. She draw that stuff, but no.
Right. But then now the art lesson was about drawing boxes, and there was this whole stack of boxes, and you got to draw them in 3D and all this. And this Amy was struggling with. And of course, the story is about the cats in the boxes. So Beena was very joking, how appropriate it is. Here it comes now. Are you drawing Edgy? I said, just add Edgy in with your boxes. And there you go. So anyway, but I still didn't see any of it. So all right. I guess it's doing its own thing.
She didn't show me too. So like, but this is amazing. Some different people, different things. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool stuff. What you've been thinking about? What you've been doing, Erica?
Not really anything new and earth-shattering. I've continued to think a lot about our conversation the other day with naming, and I was telling Mom about, and actually I was telling Kathy yesterday about how, Beena, what you shared about the, was it initiating?
Yes, initiating.
Was so fascinating to me, that alternative sort of conception was so interesting. And I've thought a lot about that, and about and to me, that it was really fascinating to me how much that tied into our larger discussion of diplomacy. That I think in the first session it asks, the exercises say, how do you kind of see or define diplomacy? And my answer was, for me, at a really high level, I see it as planting a seed of doubt, just starting this little spark, and then backing up and letting the person, letting that go, letting them do what they will with it, but just supplying that one little seed of doubt, in whatever way is appropriate. And that to me was like so fitting with what you were saying about initiating. So I thought a lot about that. That was really, really interesting. And I've continued thinking about naming and all of that. So yeah, that's just a continuation of our discussion the other day.
And before you came here, we were discussing, and I was sharing with Sil that how things comes up. I was sharing about the shadow side. I said I always I want to pay attention to that, because I saw a lot on internet, and especially in the group when I joined as an admin, I see people continuously talking about the shadow work, and I need to, it's about my shadow side. And I was not deliberately avoiding reading all these things. Like, okay, I don't want to, because this is something I see people know. So I was not paying attention to. And then when you mentioned that, and I said, okay, I want to know more. And then the moment you were just telling me about yourself, this idea that, it is just the appropriate thing. And I was like, wow, now it would make a whole lot of sense to me. And also I was sharing with Sylv that how liberating it is. And sometimes for me, it was my life transformative concepts of way of impeccability. It was in the list. On top of that, the precise vocabulary.
Yeah.
Just the usage of precise vocabulary, like the initiation.
Mhm.
That was it creates a whole new association with power now.
Right. Absolutely.
And same with the shadow thing, that okay, yes, it is my shadow side, but it is myself which doesn't have the sense of appropriateness. Okay, we can learn and we can do and we can work together. So and now it is so liberating, because otherwise that as you said that okay, yes, you have this understanding about the dark is not bad, but I had in my mind that yes, it's dark and I don't want to go there because I don't know what people actually are talking about. I don't know what from my side what will come out. I don't have that, but I feel that of course everybody will have. They must have something, some sort of other side, a parallel side. You can say that my parallel self. Okay, this is the word I can use for myself. My parallel self.
Yeah, I like it.
So what she's up to, I don't want to knock on her door like, oh, come on out and let's see. So I was avoiding that. But now it's so liberating. So the way of impeccability concept of using precise vocabulary is the key, is the key, actually.
Absolutely. And I loved that, what you said on Tuesday about, that the shadow elements or aspects being things that require, or are maybe don't inherently include appropriateness. They require that sort of additional scrutiny.
Yes.
And that, I mean, to me, that I feel like that has been a big part of my new understanding of power, but I just didn't have the right, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, but didn't
Exactly. Yes.
have the concept like solidified. And when you said that, it was like, yes, like that's exactly what I have been thinking and just didn't verbalize it in the right way. And I mean, it makes so much sense to me from like still your mind map with power at the very bottom. Power is at the very bottom for a reason, because it requires the direction of appropriateness and all of the other things, all of the other skills that you hone first in order for it to be appropriate. So to me, that is sort of the sense I've gotten of the shadow aspects of self. Is it's not that they're not valuable or useful. It's just that without appropriate direction, they can be somewhat chaotic sometimes, and requires the mastery of elements that allow you to direct those things appropriately first before you delve into power.
So how was Kathy's response? Sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead. I just want to say there's a nuance also. Yeah? Go ahead, Beena.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Please share.
I'll share in a moment. I'll share. Keep going. I have to pull a picture up.
No, I was just asking that how was Kathy's response to that?
Yeah, it was super interesting. So I was telling her yesterday about the naming conversation. And she was very interested and agreed wholeheartedly. And we talked about, I was telling her about the I told her about what you shared about initiating, and about seeing power and strength from a different perspective.
Yes.
And at the end, I shared she and I. Oh, that's so cute. Oh my God. She and I. So I think I've said this before, but I have for the longest time, I have had this like not so secret desire to have a hedgehog. I love hedgehogs. I think they're like the cutest thing on the face of it.
They are quite something. You've seen those with the little hedgehogs. We're going to say hedgehogs different to a porcupine. They're very small. They fit in your hand. And then you kind of tickle their tummies and they're all happy. And
porcupines can throw their barbs and hedgehogs don't. You don't have to worry about, stabbing you from across the room. Anyway, she and I have talked about choice and trust a lot, because of our discussions here. And So
what we are actually looking at now, all sort of pictures coming.
I'm trying to find my mind map, and I clicked on the Hedgie picture, and I'm just scrolling through till I get to the mind map. So maybe I'm going the wrong way.
Okay.
So yeah, we've talked a lot about trust and choice has a big topic of conversation that Kathy actually brings up pretty often.
Oh, I got to show you something, Erica.
Ooh, those are some awesome shoes. Oh, very nice. Look at that
Young
hair.
man. The young man.
It's
Oh, and you know, just I had big hair, which okay, the school didn't really clamp down on hair. You know, I mean, the school before the hair couldn't touch your ear. You know, you get a hiding for that.
wow.
But the school, so I had a little longer. You see the other boys, their hair is not, you know, regular short, but I kind of pushed the edge a little bit of that hair.
Oh, that's
Anyway, yeah, I'm going the wrong way on the pictures. Anyway, so
so nice.
it's the school picture. Anyway.
Yeah, so we've talked extensively about choice, and she brings that up a lot in my discussions, and she has definitely grasped the importance of that for me. So I mentioned something at the very end of our discussion about I think I said something along the lines of, you know, I've felt this sort of impending inevitability almost of strength and power and this sort of concept kind of chasing
Yes.
my life, and I've just run away from it because I had a particular idea in mind of you know, what that meant and what it meant for me. And I
Yes.
said, you know, now through all of this work that we've all been doing, I am finally, you know, I've finally reached the point where I've stopped running, and I feel like I've turned around and gone, okay, you know, this, just because this is something that feels, I mean, it still for me has this sense of inevitability almost. It's like this is happening, you know, in some way, shape, or form, whether you want it to or not. Like, this is just part of the story. But now I see that I get to choose what it means to me. And so, you know, it doesn't have to be strength and power and this, you know, I don't have to be this kind of person that I've felt like I was supposed to be all this time. Strength and power and all of these concepts can be what I choose for them to be.
You can define exactly.
Right. And so she brought that up. You know, I said something kind of along those lines, but she really drove home the point of the importance of choice in that. And she said something really interesting. She said, she actually told me, she said she was going to try to join the Friday call last week, and something came up last minute and she wasn't able to. So I'm hoping that she'll join the Friday call one of these days.
At the time that you and Joe come on.
When I sent her the info, I told her that you're generally on from somewhere like 8 to noon our time. And so she said, but I told her, she said, I can text you when I'm going to.
Okay. Yeah. So typically like 2 hours before, because we've been doing the Qigong in the first 2 hours of the 4 hours before you.
Right.
So 2 hours before you, that's a good time. Anytime, or hour before, you know, somewhere else.
So,
that's fantastic. Yay, Kathy.
I'm hoping that she'll jump. She said something really interesting at the end of the call, which I definitely feel. But she said something along the lines of, I think I mentioned something again about the concept of if I sort of chose my life circumstances so that I could learn about all these different things, it really makes sense to me. Like, I think we were talking about, I told her that I'm doing the diplomacy course. So we were talking about that. And I said, you know, I definitely am seeing that my life circumstances have placed me in a perfect position to sort of test these diplomacy again. And she said something along the lines in that conversation of, she said, I'm really glad that you have found the people in your life, including her, that she said something about basically sort of the concept of like building a team of people.
Yes.
Help
Yes,
me,
Kathy.
help me.
Yes.
And she said, I'm really grateful to be a part of your team. I love that you've found Sil and Beena and all these people that are part of your team. And I was like, I agree. I really do feel that way. Like, I feel like I have amassed this team of people around me that are exactly who I need to help me make sense of these things that I'm learning. And so I love that. I really do think that's true. I love that concept.
Yes, yes, that is the most beautiful thing. Yes, I will be sure to thank her on Friday for this. Awesome. Wow, that's brilliant.
Still,
Yes.
we were discussing the same thing about Kathy.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yesterday I guess we were discussing, and I was like, I'm so happy that she is not a conventional kind of a counselor or a therapist. And so says, no, they have, this is more like a friendship, and they have more understanding and more a lot of things to share, moreness to share with. And this is what we were discussing. Of course, not in exact words, but this is what we were discussing. Wow, this is so amazing. And Erica, yes, it's not like, okay, it's me or it's Cell here. So we are saying that if we look at your life right now, I see myself as that my life. I'm so blessed that people around like you, Kay, me and Kay, I don't know every single time magic happens. I just talk and talk. I don't say sometimes like, okay, yes, you don't go ahead.
I'm just like, yeah, whatever. No.
Because every single time I deliberately I was thinking that no, this time no, I will just let them do. But something happened. Whenever Kay comes, I start, and I said to her very clearly that I just love communicating with you. And then she says, okay, yes. And she was thinking, no, because I was a kindergarten teacher. It is not because of that. The person herself is like, wow, I just love talking to her. And I talk too much with her.
Oh, she loves it. She loves it.
Yes. It's just so enjoy. This is for me that the intent was to do this together, to do teamwork, to build community, to have this deeper interaction. I mean, this is the whole idea. So I want to focus here on power. Look at the subcategories. Sorry, go ahead.
Before we get into that, I was going to say something that I mean, along the lines of what Kathy was saying, something that it keeps coming up for me over and over again lately, of how incredibly grateful I am that even though my circle has always been very small, it is not lost on me how incredibly not circumstantial or random it is that I have managed to surround myself with incredibly amazing people. Like the people in my life have so much depth, so much moreness. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I have managed to find myself in the middle of this incredible collection of really amazing people. It's not lost on me, that even though my circle is small, I have managed to find really incredible people.
It is incredible. It is incredible, which, just earlier today, we had the session with Cheryl. You met Cheryl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just Cheryl, oh man, it's too amazing. Just really enjoying this, and all the moreness that I saw starting to come, and just basically starting again. She essentially stopped. Everything shut down at some point as a teenager, because her moreness was making her sister, according to her mother, be less. So she had to kind of limit herself. She was too good and nice. So just kind of everything shut down, and anyway, long story. But today you could see she looked like a teenager to me. That was too incredible. It's so fantastic. But so, yeah, I'm just really thrilled at, you know, the expansion of the community. It's very, very cool. And I was thinking about that, you know, the open Fridays, it's difficult for everybody to come because such time pressure. But I was thinking to shift it, you know, I'll leave it there and it's there. I try and keep that spot open. But to shift it maybe to maybe once a month to just have kind of like get together on Zoom, you
Right.
know, just everybody, current participants, past participants, everybody come say hi. We just hang out, chat, get together.
Yeah, that would be good.
So, yeah. All right, I'll do that. Because I do feel that that connectivity and community is kind of a big deal, you know, it's a big deal. It's very fun. So, all right. So I wanted to say, yeah, with power, look at the subcategories that are around power, just to give you an idea of, or at least connectivity, you know, capital C, confidence, connectedness.
Mhm.
Connectedness as a subcategory to power. This is most definitely not the usual power. Okay, there's personal power, but it's one of 6 here, you know, ultimate evolution, self-ease, personal freedom. But I was also thinking in terms of strength. You know, strength to me, integrity is strength.
Mhm.
Honesty, self-honesty, especially, this is strength. Yes. Capital D, diplomacy takes strength.
Independence for sure is a strength.
Yeah. So when we start to just redefine, at least with power, when you take now strength used deliberately is power. Yes.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a little different. But I wanted to make the point: power is at the bottom, but there's something. Then power goes into more, right? Because it's the preparation for the more, right? Oh, the two more, yeah, ultimate survival and deliberately usable energy. See? Oh, yeah. So just this, but it's just the smallness after power. You know, I was just thinking, where is integrity on this? I don't know. Well, probably one of these.
Yeah.
It's probably over here somewhere. But it needs to be a bit more of a. Oh, there it is. Yeah, integrity. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say sobriety is the, you know, the more enveloping quality of that. So these ones, I couldn't make them colorful. They need to be a bolder as well. They came a bit weak, but anyway, so be it. So. Very cool, very cool. That's nice. It's nice, you know, the overall connectivity of it. What was there before? Oh, right. You know, habit management, impeccability, and strategy. You know, again, if you go through this, there is a movement here. You need to master strategy. You need to have your impeccability in check before you get to this, you know, and then intent, you know, intent is way up here as well. But your character obviously is the key deal, you know, and your self-conception. Your self-conception goes before character, not after.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Because again, you know, if your self-conception is I'm a criminal, well, your character is going to be out to be a good criminal.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, was impeccability was up a year as well, you know. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. This will be something nice to draw as well at some point, you know, make our own and do it as a joint thing together and, you know, work on this and do smaller subset ones, you know, just play around with this concept a little bit and make it a little bit more pretty, you know. So, all right. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Fun stuff. That's nice that this came up in your discussion with Kathy.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Oh, that's exciting to hear that Kathy's coming. That's very exciting.
Yeah, I really hope she does.
So maybe text her on Friday. You know, you're at 10, right? So
yeah, she said she has sessions on Friday. She has like standing sessions with people on Friday. But she has a break sometimes, but you know, in the morning at some point. So I haven't, when she mentioned
okay, so,
I texted her just because I didn't want to interrupt her session.
All right. So she can come anytime. If she comes during the session with Josla, we can put that aside. There's no problem. I just hoping she doesn't come too early for you to join.
Right. No, I told her that that I would love to be on when she's on. So
yes, yeah, that would be fun.
Okay. I mean, if it goes later after you, that's fine too.
Right.
Yeah. All right, very cool. Yeah, she's in your time zone, so
Yes.
yeah, very cool, very cool, very cool, brilliant. All right, so any more housekeeping before we go?
I don't think so.
No, not. All right, brilliant. Where were we? Which slide were we on?
Okay, so I think that we had gotten to the end of the exercises on the first part of the first module. So we should be at, let's see, where's the heading? No, consideration?
You don't have the slide numbers?
No, I don't. Oh, no, consideration was the first one. So context. I think-
Context, that's where we are.
Slide 12. It was
Yeah.
on slide 12.
Yeah, so we're going to slide 13 now. Oh, slide 12 is the quote. Right, right. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. All right.
So, yeah, so
I don't know if the screen share interferes with you or not, does it?
interferes? No, I don't think so.
Oh, and it doesn't interfere with your notes.
Okay, there, I got it.
Okay. Okay.
So my takeaway, I had one takeaway for the context portion of the first module.
Mm,
And
mm.
I said, all perspectives, even the absurd, serve to balance the world and give us a view into the many facets of universal expression. This perspective helps us separate individuals from their beliefs and respond to nonsense from a less reactionary place. It also helps us remain neutral and find understanding for those whose beliefs are a product of their current bubble.
Wow.
And I loved, it's been a while since we've talked about this, but I think in
Wow.
sessions back, I was saying something about this and that you know, that kind of overall perspective.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm just keen for you to go back to that and put the caption on.
And do what?
Oh, say, I didn't hear what you said the last time. Overlap. Sorry, say again.
Oh, no, I just was saying, you know, I said the other day, I think I sort of alluded the other day to the fact that this whole section of context was really helpful for me in making more sense of, or sort of putting the pieces together for how to rein in reactions to people who hold different beliefs or say something that seems nonsensical, and sort of be able to separate the person from the belief and look at it from, you know, really craft an actual response, like a diplomatic response to what the person is saying, rather than just reacting to whatever nonsense they're spouting.
Yes. So I want to rewind a little bit, because now we got an explanation of an explanation. Yes.
Right.
All right. So I want to rewind and let's hear your takeaway again. And
Yeah.
Beena, we zoom out and, you know, look overview perspective, implication, or we hear what's being communicated in terms of kind of an impression maybe, or just a view, a perspective as a caption. All right, let's hear. I'll share what I have in mind in a moment.
All perspectives, even the absurd, serve to balance the world and give us a view into the many facets of universal expression. This perspective helps us separate individuals from their beliefs and respond to nonsense from a less reactionary place. It helps us remain neutral and find understanding for those whose beliefs are a product of their current bubble.
Wow. So for me, I put a caption, I say articulate sophistication or sophisticated articulation, either way.
Beautiful,
I'm exactly, but what I'm keen on is the owning of the sophisticated articulation by Erica-Jayne. It's a very big difference to express it and another thing to own it in your being.
Sure.
Yes?
Sure.
As a, in the now, In the now, this doesn't need any more, but also it doesn't need a re-explanation, but also it does need an appropriate mood and attitude and style and vibe and ownership. No?
True. I agree.
The articulate sophistication doesn't quite match the hold of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You with me? All right. So we were
Yes.
talking to Kay about, Kay's sort of habit of apologizing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, you don't do it the way that Kay does it, but nonetheless, there isn't a full ownership. So it's not quite apology, but it's on the very end of that same spectrum.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying? In terms of what you shared with us and what came subsequently, two different things. There's a bit of a disconnect in between. Yeah.
What do you mean? What came subsequently?
The re-explanation of what you read to us.
Well, I didn't necessarily intend that to be a re-explanation, just sort of an additional
Okay. Yeah.
side.
Elaboration.
But yeah.
Still, though, I mean, in terms of the way you did the elaboration, if the same mood and style and fullness and depth of that doesn't, yes, understand the articulation is more crafted, there's more time to work.
You're breaking, sir.
On it. But nonetheless, there's a mood and a style that goes with it. Which hang on. Let me put. Am I back?
Yes.
All right. I just put it on the cell. It just seems to be a time of day thing. It's very interesting. All right. So I'm just saying that there's absolutely no criticism here. I'm just advocating a shift, an ability to be and feel and have a style and a mood that is able to own and thus synchronize and connect and be appropriate to that particular communication that you had. Right? That style, the mood, the feel, because I see it and it comes, but then the moment after that, it's like a whole different type of communication. I understand the context isn't necessarily warrant that mood and style, but nonetheless, the ability to go there, this is what I am now connecting to or advocating. Yeah?
I think I get where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so that one gets the opportunity to practice it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. So because it's so potent what you read. Yes, the text is, you are making an appropriate takeaway, but there's a delicate sensitivity to it as well as a sophistication. Now, yes, I didn't pick something that is mind-blowing off the charts of the world necessarily, but it is potent within the context of what was said. Yeah, it's really, really awesome stuff. It's precise, it's exact, it's articulate, it's sophisticated. So all I'm saying is that since we are talking about power, this is an Erica power, which I don't think that you need to or have to exemplify as a regular thing, but certainly the ability to do so and practicing doing so, this I feel is invaluable. Whether you use the skill or not, totally irrelevant.
Right. That makes sense.
It's a matter of taking the opportunity to claim your power, to practice that as a mood and a style, because it's really something. It's really something. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
And also specifically too, and the reason I'm kind of focusing on this a little bit and going real into nuance, fiddly-earness, and we're kind of going a lot sideways, it is because this is something that was seen in you as a young child and pushed at you, which you said, no, thank you. But just because it was inappropriate then it doesn't mean it is so now. Furthermore, I'm absolutely not advocating that this is something you need to do, should do, want to do. No, but simply the ability. We don't want to leave tools unsharpened in the tool.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. This is a tool. When appropriate, should you be able to use it? Just have the practice of being able to do so.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
And that's pretty cool, no?
It is. It is. I appreciate that for sure. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So we have to get you into kind of a formal mode, and you know what? I don't know what this is for me. I'm just saying, at times, you know, shift into that and share when you feel the mood to share in that style and mode, and hold it a little bitty, so that when you do go into the elaborations, you keep that mood of your takeaway in the elaboration, in the further deeper explanation. It just be good practice. Just be good practice. It's something that's so delicious now. Okay, maybe I'm just a little bit greedy for myself here, but it's a really delicious thing to encounter that type of articulate sophistication. We don't always encounter it in life, but when we do, it's something fun. It's something fun.
Yeah.
You can't have too much of it, like everything. Stop.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That makes sense. I get it now. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So it's almost the inverse of what you were saying about people in their bubbles.
Right.
So go to the other end of that spectrum. All right, listening.
Okay. So the first 3 parts of the exercise, I got a little bit squirrely on. I did fine with the rest of them, but so the first question was,
oh, there's another slide in between. 2 of them.
another slide. Well, yeah, I did a takeaway repeat back for the
slide. Oh, for the whole section. Oh, brilliant. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Very cool.
So, okay, first question, can we cue an expectation of logic and reason? How would you go about doing this? And I think in the beginning, yeah, it must have been the quote at the very beginning of this section, talked about cueing, like deliberate, ethical cueing related to logic and reasoning. It just barely mentioned it. And so I think the insinuation here is that, yes, it is possible to cue an expectation of logic and reason, but I thought about this, and I basically came to the conclusion that I don't really have any specific ideas of how one would appropriately cue an expectation of logic and reason. So I just left it at that, and I was like, whatever, we can just discuss it in the in the session. So I'm curious to hear both of your opinions on this, because I never really did come up with a good plan of action.
Cueing is tricky to discuss without example. It's very difficult because it's such a deeply innate skill that we possess that we don't even realize we're doing it. However, if we are going to be deliberate about cueing and expectation, in other words, I'm cueing that I expect you to be logical and reasonable.
Right.
Yes. So I could say something like, all right, what are we doing today? What's on our agenda? We are going to see and explore stuff. I want to hear from everybody in the meeting. I'm certainly interested to hear how you've thought through things and how you've come to your conclusions.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I've cued logic and reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very subtly, I'm most interested to hear your substantiations of your positions.
Yeah.
Try and substantiate your position without logic and reason. I'm not saying be logical and reason, but I've certainly cued it, right?
Yeah.
So the tool is implication.
What I feel that sometimes we do that by changing our own mood and tone.
Yes.
Not saying anything,
exactly.
but like, okay, someone is being unlikable and some completely stupid in conversation, in communication with people, and we are sitting together, like some family member, maybe some friend. We all have at least one friend who always gets nuts whenever in the gathering. So, and if you don't want that, we change our tone.
Mhm.
Just shift our conversation toward more serious topics.
Yes. Yes.
So it's
Yes.
an ethical cueing to be logical, be
Yeah.
appropriate in that situation.
Right.
It is not like you are not pushing anything, you are not saying anything, you are just shifting the conversation, general conversation, towards more logical topics. And,
Right.
just by shifting our, okay, not body language even, it's just the tone that, okay, yes, I'm keen about that. Or asking someone else different questions about that. I'm keen to go more deeper into that.
Yes.
So this is also a part of diplomacy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take this in a real world example. You've been in meetings, and I'm assuming you've probably led some meetings.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come into the meeting room, and people are fooling around, and you guys are throwing paper jets at each other or whatever, asking about, right? You've been in meetings like that, right? Where it's kind of chaos, and the people are really just horsing about, right?
Well, to a certain extent.
To certain degrees. Okay. But there's they just and then okay, so you may even be waiting for the time meeting to start, or you're waiting for people to arrive, and you may be participating in the tomfoolery. People are joking, teasing each other, whatever. Okay, then the last people arrive, and suddenly, let's say you stand up, or you straighten up, you tidy your stuff, you kind of get into mode. All right, enough fooling around, let's get going.
Right.
Just that one simple statement, and your change of mood and tone and attitude, and suddenly you're bringing sobriety into it. Right there, you're cueing an expectation of logic and reason, because by contrast, you said, okay, enough now, and let's get going. You don't even have to say enough fooling around. Just your shift of tone and mood can cue this expectation of logic or sobriety. So it's very subtle sometimes. And again, it's that intent and forefront of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So much can be cued, because think again when you were in the meeting, and how somebody, their style said, oh, with this person, don't be cracking jokes while they're having the meeting. How do you know that? Just when they're walking in the door, you get the feel of their mood and tone and intent. Yes. So absolutely, we can cue this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can cue it through sobriety. Sobriety is inherently logical and reasonable. So it's amazing. It's very, very amazing what we can cue. And when you think of how you responded to a team, somebody leading a meeting, and they're queuing without saying a word, you knew where you stood, what was going on for the most part. No, yeah. At least you knew some parameters. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Does that help in this?
That makes total sense. Well, your example and Beena's both make total sense.
Excellent.
I love that idea. I mean, that as soon as you said that totally snapped into place for me, of the concept of laying out ahead of time with insinuation, like, okay, and not saying I'm expecting you to do blah, 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 but wording it in a way that the expectation is implied, basically.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, I'm really looking forward to hearing, how you've thought this through, and blah, blah, blah. And you're not saying, you're not giving a direct order, you're just sort of implying.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking
about. In business, it's really a variation of assume the sale.
Right. That's true.
Right. But we're being sophisticated again, because if I say, look, I expect you to be logical, reasonable, somebody could pipe up, what made you think we were going to be illogical and unreasonable?
Right. Well, and I think an important part of that, and I think a really important part of diplomacy, is understanding that what's logical and reasonable to you is not necessarily what's logical and reasonable to someone else. So if you don't spell it out for them, if you just say, I'm expecting you to be logical and reasonable, well, that could mean anything for any number of people.
Exactly. Well, I'm keen to hear your substantiations and your validations of your position.
If you give examples of this is what I'm expecting from you, then there's no question about what is logical and reasonable, in the context.
Exactly. Plus, I'm cueing that I am assuming you've been sensible.
Right.
I'm saying, hey, I want to hear you guys, please. In this meeting, I expect you to be sensible. Whatever made you think I'm not going to be sensible, that's kind of crappy. And I'm already got my finger up and I'm annoyed at you. But, oh, wow. They're just taking it for granted that I'm going to be sensible and reasonable and logical. Wow, thank you. Oh, that's pretty cool. Now I've already been complimented in essence. So now, even if I hadn't done that, I'm going to try and step up to maintain this perspective of me.
I think for me, I mean, one of the interesting things about that concept of sort of cueing goodness in others to me is, and Beena, I think you've said something about this before about inherent goodness being present at some level in everyone. And I love that concept. I mean, I totally see that by and large, there's always exceptions, but by and large, most people want to be good. They want to do the right thing. The challenge is each person has a different idea of what's right and good. And so, within their own bubble. And so I think, like, for me, for example, if I want to be right and good and appropriate in someone else's context, that puts a huge strain on me when it's not clear what they're expecting. If it's just, okay, I'm trying to be good, but I don't know, I don't really know what they're expecting. It could go any direction. It puts a lot of pressure on me. It makes me feel anxious, nervous, whatever. So to me, it is in that context where you're sort of cueing logic and reason and stepping into the role of sort of facilitating that is a kindness to offer someone else the opportunity of clarity on what you're expecting. Because if if you're saying, I believe that you have inherent goodness in you, I believe that you want to do what's going to be appropriate and right and good in this context. And so I'm making it very clear for you. I'm taking the guesswork out of this. I'm making it very clear for you what will be right and good for me in this context.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks directly to that person's inherent goodness. And if they're tuned into that, now all of the guesswork is taken out and they go, awesome, now I know exactly what the expectation is.
Yes.
And I can just jump right into this. And I mean, for me, I always feel so much more comfortable when I know what someone else is expecting. And that doesn't necessarily mean I have to act on what they're expecting. But if I know what the expectation is, then I feel so much more at ease and at peace. So yeah, I think that is
huge.
Is taking that guesswork out, removing that level of discomfort from the people around you in clearly stating what the expectation is.
Yes, and also creating enough room for variation and for individualization. I'm not dictating, I'm creating a parameter rather than an expectation.
Right. And by doing that, you're allowing the other person to still choose goodness. You're not forcing their hand.
Exactly.
You're still saying, here you go, but you have to take it. Like, if you want to choose this goodness, if you want to choose awareness and goodness for yourself, here you go. But I can't do that for you.
Yeah. Exactly. That choice is, they got to choose it. It's absolutely critical, especially in leadership. It's very essential that we don't remove choice. The good leaders actually just simply create opportunities where they make choices easy.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So our diplomacy is, leading by walking backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful. You said something interesting or potent in that most people, at least, as far as most people, pretty much most people want to be good. Yes.
Right.
Pretty much all people want to be thought of as good.
Right. Right.
And we can leverage that. Even a BMN likes to be thought of as good. And they will go to ridiculous extreme efforts to appear good, which actually they will end up doing good things, even if their motives not about the goodness. They'll like help people and donate to charity and help in the charity. They couldn't get two hoots about the people they're helping, but they are actually helping, which I find fascinating. It makes no difference what your motivations are. The results are real. So I am quite happy to fully exploit your desire to be thought of as good. You're going to actually be good, whether you mean to or not, in order to satisfy being thought of as good. Okay, thank you. I'll use that. I'll run with it. And you can say, okay, some people like to have this kind of tough attitude or a mean or a bad attitude, and be thought of as tough and badass and all this rubbish. They still, in their minds, that is being thought of as good. I'm tough, strong, I'm respectful or respected or whatever. It's still the same underlying mechanism. Can work with it, same thing.
Yeah.
So when we just add that nuance, most people want to actually be good. Pretty much everyone wants to be at least what thought of as good. Now, some want to be good and don't care if they thought of was good as not. But between the two, we pretty much get everybody. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to take notes on all of this stuff before I forget it.
Please do and take your time. We just always good, always good. It's a potent subject. Again, because it goes into that subtle nuance of the underlying intent that we are creating options. This is our diplomacy. Again, absolute consideration. Right now, we are just creating context within which consideration can flower and thrive. Yes?
Right. Absolutely. Okay. I think I got what I was trying to
So when we look at this from a leadership point of view, which in capital D diplomacy, if we are in situations where we are enacting capital D diplomacy, we are absolutely being leaders.
True.
Absolutely. There's no question about it, right? It can't be avoided. So in the context of leadership, somebody's like, wow, this person really is looking out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously looking out for me. That's why they're talking to a buddy. And I say, what do you mean? So, they didn't just tell me what to do. No, they presented things and let me choose of my own accord that I want to do this. That's really like respecting me. They weren't kind of trying to boss me and bully me. They gave me a choice to say, you can do this. Not only that, they were looking out for me to the extent that they just basically took it for granted that I am a good person and I want to do goodness. Well, I never had anybody else that always think I'm slack, I'm lazy, I don't want to do anything. It's like, seriously, that's really looking out for me, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did they do it even more? They didn't just say, I must guess what is expected of me. No, they made it clear the range of what's expected. But even in that, they made it broad so that I could be individual. They didn't narrow me. They didn't box me. How's that not looking out for me? That's really taking me and my individuality and my choices into consideration. This is really cool. Plus, they gave me some measure of knowing what to do. So I'm not lost there sitting like, well, what? This is extreme consideration. It's fantastic. Furthermore, they understood, they made an effort to look at things from within my circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Just assume that, okay, because I'm carpentry, that, I understand metallurgy. No, they understood things from inside carpentry's perspective so that I could operate in the context of what I know. And they took that into consideration, not expecting me to do things that aren't part of my world. It's fantastic. So it's very, very hyper considerate. Very cool. Leadership is all fine and well until you try to lead volunteers. I should say leadership theory. Yeah. Most business leadership theory is based on the premise that you have actual real power over people. Same with military leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? But true leadership is when you're leading volunteers.
True. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, I've seen this in the games when like when they do raids, yeah, which is it's a hyper detailed, very focused environment in which people have to do specific tasks. They have to remain alert because random stuff is going to get thrown on you. Don't stand in the fire. You have to have situational awareness, and you have to have respond and react. And so it's a difficult task. You are trying to get people to step up out of their bounds of awareness and expectations and fear and performance and everything. This is a monumental challenge. You know, so raid leaders, and they're all volunteers. Any one of them could just click quit and go, and you can never see them again. And that's it. There's no real deep penalty for them doing this. Okay, they'll probably get kicked out of the guild or whatever, but if they don't care, if you like really a jackass, well, I don't want to be in your guild, and they couldn't be bothered. So, and then the worst part of that is now you're going to have to find somebody to replace them, which could take an hour or two. So, you know, your whole group is now affected by the loss of one. So you have to really, really be very, very diplomatic, because people are stupid, you know, stand in the fire. It's literally there's fire on the ground and you're standing in it and you're burning, and the healer says, look, your health bar is going down. People don't notice it, and then they die. But
Right.
didn't you see the fire? You standing in the fire, and they'll remind people, don't stand in the fire. Don't. It's an incredible thing. It's like duh, but it happens. It's a cliche. It's a fascinating mechanism. When you watch these raid leaders, it's unbelievable, their skill. It's something special to watch sometimes. The good ones, at any rate. It's
Right.
truly an art form. So, you know, and again, they're all volunteers. It's very potent to watch this. Also, you'll see though that the really good leaders will tell people what to do, but in a way that is not bossy, it's not dictatorial, but at the same time is fairly firm. And people are like, okay, sure, no problem. You know, yeah, stand here, stand there. Okay, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. You know, it's fantastic. It's truly a joy to watch.
And I think one of the things, I mean, it's interesting because I think it reminds me of Way of Impeccability, sort of the overall strategy of Way of Impeccability, that to me, one of the marks of true leadership is building a team of people whose skills you trust so inherently that your sort of micromanaging style leadership is not necessary.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of football, like American football.
Yeah.
Where, you know, the coach,
yeah.
Sometimes the coach will call a very specific play that they want to have.
Right.
But most of the time, what's really going on is the coach is teaching the entire team specific like a playbook, right? Strategies, multiple strategies for handling various situations.
Right.
And most of the time, unless there is an extenuating circumstance, the coach is leaving the actual decisions of which plays are going to be appropriate in certain situations to the quarterback.
Yeah.
The coach isn't making that call. The quarterback is going, oh, you know, okay, I'm assessing the situation right now, right one, and this is what we need to do. We're going to pull this play out of the book because this is appropriate. And that to me, that's a big part of what Way of Impeccability is teaching you the playbook of strategies and then saying, okay, now you figure out what's appropriate to use when. But I think that's a big mark of what makes a good leader, is not someone who dictates every single detail of what you're supposed to be doing all the time, but teaches you the strategies and then teaches you how to identify what's appropriate and when, and then allows their team to use their expertise to make those decisions. You know, and the leader is just sort of standing back, directing when necessary.
Yeah. Oh, football, American football. I really enjoy watching it. Not because it's a violent sport, but because it is a ridiculously sophisticated sport. Ridiculously sophisticated. You might see these guys and these big guys. No, but people don't really realize, you know, if you just look at the surface, you don't get it. Just because it's a violent sport, don't make it a non-sophisticated sport.
Right.
So when you understand the sport, number one, you need to be a lawyer to really understand the fullness of all the rules and stuff. So, you know, I mean, it's a rule for everything.
Yes.
But just on the concept of time management, unbelievable, right? Look, 2 minutes. A minute in American football is 15 minutes.
Right. At
And
least.
they break down, you know, it's astonishing. I mean, literally that 2 minute rule, when they call 2 minutes, that usually takes sometimes a half an hour to play 2 minutes, right? It's incredible. So just on that, but when you look at then all the different parts of your team, you've got your defensive coach, offensive coach. With inside that, you've got the receivers, the coach for the receivers, the coach for the running backs, the linemen, and so on. Everybody's got their own specialized coach, and they all work together. Now, if we abstract this to wave impeccability, this is precisely what we want to do. Yes, we want to have the overview of the game and be the coach, but also we need to understand, in order to be an effective wide receiver, I have to know each detail of this. So each concept breaks down into the sub-concepts and then the sub-concepts underneath that. And we need to have expertise in each level all the way down to the end. Now, let's look at the trust involved. American football is an incredible game of trust. Yes. The moment that snap happens, then that football drops back into the pocket, right? And there's all this mayhem going on around him for a few seconds. He needs to focus on paying attention to where his receivers are. Let's assume he's going to go long now. You know, if he's just handing it off, it's usually a little bit more simple. But when he's going to pass the ball, right, he's got to be aware. Yes, he's got to have some situational awareness of the guys trying to take him down and the guys protecting him, because you'll see sometimes they'll move out of the way and all this. But nonetheless, so he has to have wide vision awareness plus the focused awareness on the particular receiver. He has to also trust that his receiver is going to be in position. If he's doing a particularly long pass, he's throwing where he anticipates the receiver is going to be. I find this too incredible. It's too incredible sometimes. And the receiver runs trusting that it's going to be there. It's just unbelievable. You know,
part of what allows the quarterback to have that focus is trusting that his offensive line is
exactly, it's going to protect you. Exactly. The whole thing is such this exquisite ballet of trust.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
It's too fantastic. And, you know, the precision, the level of skill that's involved, you know, and that receiver needs to literally be a half step in front of the guy who's covering him. That's it. A half step difference. So they've absolutely seen the smallest increment and they trust that's all I need. I just need to be that half step ahead. Doesn't matter. That's it. And there you go. It's too incredible. Just this whole ballet of sophistication and detail and the precision involved. You know, it's just amazing to me. So I truly enjoy watching expertise. You know, it's a very big deal to see real sophisticated high level expertise in action.
Right.
It's a joy. You know, professionalism, in other words.
And I mean, something interesting in that analogy for me too is the addition of the importance of habit.
Yes.
That, you know, part of what allows all of this to go on is that they have run these plays so many times together that a lot of the motions are now habit and muscle memory.
It's innate.
That's what allows for more energy to go into the strategy, you know, because you're not having you're not having to worry about all the semantics.
Yes. And also they've taken a habit to the extreme exquisite length, because your plan is only good until you get it in the mouth.
Right.
Mike Tyson wisdom. But this is true though. So they train and they do, but every single part of their training at that level is your ability to customize on your instinctual behavior, right? So yes, they have the habitual expression, but also you are behaving innately. At the same time, you're maintaining your awareness to make that slight nuanced variation, to just react, to just that slight tweak that makes the difference.
Right.
And the really top players are the ones that can do this the most effectively, where they can, okay, so you're expecting the quarterback to throw it in the spot, but he's a little off. You need to make that adjustment.
Right.
That's what really sets it apart. The marriage between appropriateness and deliberate innate habit.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's interesting.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
That to me, there's a huge similarity between that and musicians, especially musicians who are playing together, because it's the concept that you drill these really very simple, in individually speaking, very simple scales over and over and over and over again, so that part becomes habit and becomes muscle memory, and that allows you to then improvise.
Exactly.
And then that part of your brain isn't focusing on here, it's focusing on how can I improvise. And when you start getting multiple musicians who are improvising, playing together, then you add that additional thing in of having to adapt to each other, and okay, you're doing this, I'm going to do this. But yeah, that combination of sort of on the fly thinking, appropriateness basically, and practice, that muscle memory, habitual is so fast.
Situational contextual adaptation. In the moment. This is key. Same thing with art. Know your basics. I think Picasso said, understand the rules so that you can break them.
Exactly.
But you can't break them if you don't know what they are.
Right.
And this is I think he said something, I may not be, maybe somebody else, but the essential paraphrasing here is that a true artist is one who really breaks the rules, but they know the rules exquisitely, which enable them to break them artistically. So they don't completely break it. It's again situational contextual variation or adapting.
To me, that brings this discussion right back around to the beginning of what we were talking about with diplomacy.
Exactly.
We talked a while back about, and I'm talking about the music made me think of this, because I think, Beena, you brought this discussion up last time, that when we were talking a while back about, at the time, I was sort of fascinated by the concept of chaos to a certain extent, sort of up at the level of everything in the universe, but everything is underscored by this foundation of law and rule. And that, music, that's one of the ways that music theory makes sense is, we have these very specific rules of engagement in music, but once you know the rules, then that allows you to do all of this creative, sort of freeform type stuff. And to me, that's exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of this with diplomacy, that when you lay out expectations in a way that is broad and leaves room for individual expression. I mean, that's the same thing that's happening on a universal level in nature, in music, in art, and all these other things. I mean, that's how our universe works as well. That once we know the basic rules of engagement, that frees us up to express our own individual interpretation of that in an appropriate way, because we know what the boundaries are. So yeah, I mean, that's interesting, because to me that makes diplomacy an art form.
Exactly.
It's an art form.
Exactly. It is an art. It is an exquisite art. Absolutely. Yes. I think to me it's one of like such an inclusive art, because you need to really have everything at your fingertips, and you really need to have an awareness of everything also, because you need to see inside the other person. So you literally need to have some awareness of just sort of life in general, of everything, to have a little bit of a moreness there involved. Speaking those languages, as we've said before, speaking mother, speaking medicine, speaking music, you need to know these things. So you need to have a really good general knowledge to truly have a good skills, couple of diplomacy skills. Very powerful. Really, really cool. I really enjoyed the football analogy, because like I said, There's moreness to these things. Yeah, you'll see it in many other sports. You know what? Something like Formula One, for instance, same thing. You know, you see this ballet of precision and artistry and strategy and tactics, but you don't see it so easily. You have to kind of really, you basically reliant on the commentators to a large extent. But in football, you can see it. Very cool.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, cool. All right, cool.
Um,
Let's know you're a fan.
I am a big college football fan.
Ah, interesting.
A huge pro football fan because we don't have any pro teams in Oklahoma. So, college football has always been the thing. But it was funny what you were saying earlier about the rules, because I completely agree. Like, the rules in college football and pro football are completely different. So, if you're watching college football and then you start watching pro and you're like, wait, what are they doing? Like, that's not allowed. What are they doing? No, it's a completely different set of rules.
Right. It's too funny though. It's brilliant. But that's American sports in general are way more rule heavy than sports elsewhere in the world. Way more. But yeah, it's different mindset, different mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, people misunderstand a lot. And, yes, certainly there are kind of thuggish elements in football, but still, when you get to that level, it shifts, even those guys, the big guys, they need to jack up their game. I had a friend who played professional baseball. He played for the Atlanta Braves. And he said, that after the first season or whatever, they called him to the office, to see if they're going to renew his contract. And they pull up footage and they basically give a rundown. He says, oh my goodness, they basically just told him where he was at, where he was in, completely just honestly and just doing a thing. He said it crushed him. It absolutely, even though they renewed his contract, it crushed him to hear this brutal honesty of saying, okay, you were childish or crappy, whatever. He said it just freaked him out how they could be so brutally, ruthlessly honest. Well, they're just doing their job. So here we are. This is your strengths. These are your weaknesses. They went through the whole deal. Professional sports, it's a whole different world. That's what he said. He grew up in that moment.
I bet. Yeah. That's
amazing. Played catcher. Very interesting. So the Oklahoma is the Schooners or Spooners? Sooners, that's right. Sooners. I knew it was some weird name.
Sooners and the Cowboys. So I went to OSU, which is the Cowboys. OU is the Sooners, and their football program is much more prestigious.
That's what I thought, because I never heard of the Oklahoma Cowboys, but I've heard of the Sooners.
Unfortunately,
the Oklahoma Sooners are one of the top level teams, right?
Unfortunately, OSU has struggled pretty much forever.
All right, shame. I feel for those schools. I feel for them.
I mean, in basketball, OSU has dominated. Wrestling, OSU has a great wrestling team. OSU has a great golf program. Ricky Fowler went to OSU.
That's right. Yeah, I did realize. Yeah.
There's those obnoxious orange things.
Wow.
OSU has some strengths, but yeah, football is not one of them for sure.
So that's interesting that they have other but that's typically with most schools. You've got to pick your poison. You can't be good at all of them. Right. So, you typically do a trade-off between the baseball, basketball and football. Usually the two main ones is the trade-off. Yeah. Very interesting. But just for Beena's edification, college sports, it's something else, Beena. You watch these college games, right? That she's talking about, at least in the higher level teams, they're fully televised games. And I mean, just the level of production that goes into one of these games, it blows your mind, all of the organization, and the money involved is huge. Now, you say, why? What's the benefit here for the school to spend this expense? Because it funds the school. Because so many of the what do they call them, not boosters, the past students, alma mater,
alumni.
Yeah. So that are now successful business people and politicians and whatever, because they are into the sports. They tend to fund the schools and sponsor the schools. So yes, they sponsor the sports programs, but some of that gets siphoned off into the school itself. So a lot of these schools won't exist if they didn't have successful sports programs.
Right.
It's just a very peculiar anomaly of the American system, but it's quite something. The depth of it and the amounts of money involved, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's really mind-blowing, mind-blowing. But it's really interesting too, because if you are in those programs, you realize the big stakes involved, and patrons and sponsors, and you got to keep people happy and this and that. You're getting an idea of real world, in terms of corporate sponsors, your stockholders, and all of this stuff, your board of directors. You got to keep a lot of people happy in the world to get done what you want to do.
Sure.
It's quite amazing. Quite amazing. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, America can be a whole other universe sometimes. In college sports. Incredible.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I'm so curious to live somewhere else, because I'm just super curious to see what the differences are. I know there's a whole other world out there outside of my.
You like, for instance, when the university that I went to, the idea of the rugby team, of the thing, going every weekend on a jet, flying all over. Now I think they might have that now, but at that time, come on, seriously, for real, and all this equipment and television and all this. No way. That's for the, and even then the national sport, which was rugby, even that wasn't professional at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was amazing. It took a while. It was a big campaign. Now they are, but it took a long time. These guys are playing at an international level, and they essentially volunteers, amateurs. It's amazing.
Wow, that's
yeah. So yeah, I don't know when they would turn professional. Probably in the 90s, I would imagine. In the 80s, yeah, in the 90s, more or less. Fascinating. So it's a different world, because the money is not there.
right.
In other countries, the wealth in America, it's just such a quantum level between everywhere else. It's a whole deal. But also the underlying logic. Certainly if you go to England with football, their football, soccer, this has been a long time professional, and towns will revolve around the soccer team, and there's like in baseball, you've got the different tiers and levels. You don't have it so much in football, but triple A and all that, you've got that in soccer over there, and some of the economies will completely revolve around the team. So it's definitely a bigger part there than it is here. So, and you do have this all over Europe, and also, other parts of the world like South America, but around soccer, not so much the other sports.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A little different thing. So very cool. Very cool. Just it's different, this different logic. In Pakistan, it's more around the cricket. Yes, they have it for other teams too, but still, it's not so pervasive on the school and the college level. Not nearly the same. Nearly the same. Yeah. Especially college football. College football is a huge industry.
It is.
Amazing.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a choice. So the next two questions were examples, and I was struggling for some reason when I went through this to come up with like good examples. So we could either talk through those and attempt to come up with some examples for that on the fly, or I answered the rest of the tasks. So I do have answers.
Okay. Now I'm keen to tackle this, because I was reading this one while we were chatting here, the second one, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure what what this means here. So I'm keen to tackle it and see, because I don't know either. Just take any problem, yours or another's, and list all the contexts in which it applies and is connected to. I don't know what I mean here, but let's investigate. So, okay, take any problem. Beena, any idea of a problem?
Well,
mine or another?
Yeah, I sat there and I'm like, a problem. And I'm like going, I don't know. Are we talking about like world hunger? Or are we talking about, I have
it says any problem. Okay, so what's it? If you ask a typical person, okay, what's your problem? And they actually answer, what would they say? Okay, my problem is impatience. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I gotcha.
So let's take a problem like that. Okay, or irritation or anger, annoyance, whatever.
I would have a different direction with that. So that helps a lot, because I'm like, I don't know, like my tire
but we could,
flat or something. Like, I don't know.
What was your last example?
I said like I've got a flat tire or something. I don't know.
Okay, so let's take a flat tire and impatience, yours or another. all the context in which it applies and is connected to. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. List all the context in which it applies and is connected to. I don't even know where to start with that.
I'm going through the slides to see what stimulated this question. So, okay, I'm just going to read from the beginning of the section here real quick and see if we can figure this out. The new nobility consider all the context in which something is happening. For instance, there would be the consideration of life circumstance, history, etc. A consideration of the context of the person's motivations. It is a personal thought-through perspective. Is it a personal thought-through perspective or a response to the current circumstance? So in other words, the thing that this person is going on about, is it a personal thought-through perspective or a response to the current circumstance?
Right.
How much of it is actually really theirs and how much is adaptation to the environment? Many perspectives articulated are not those of the individual, but merely acquiescence and conformity.
Right.
All right, starting to see where this is going. When the various contexts are considered, it's much easier to be impartial. Yes, sometimes reactions to mindless utterances stir strong feelings, but those can now be ascribed to balancing the world and not directed at the individual. Seeing such incidents as an expression of the universe via the individual is a huge help. A lever the new nobility applies. It does not matter how true something actually is. It's helpful and serves diplomacy as well as personal growth. All right. Now the responses of the new nobility can come as more abstract expressions, even if specific also. Neutrality is the order of the day, as knowing all perspectives have validity in their particular contexts allows them to be respectful. That's key. Also gentle, as understanding how easily one can get caught up in the validity of a specific context forces gentleness. From the inside of the bubble, everything seems completely right and true. And most of bubble maintenance is to avoid the awful truth. All right. So if we look at this, take any problem, you also list all the contexts in which it applies and is connected to. So the impatience, it applies to the meeting. Yes, I've got another meeting afterwards. Okay, one context. I'm impatient because, well, I've got my plane to catch and this is kind of going a bit slowly and I don't want to miss my plane. 3, my wife's cousin's mother's second sister aunt removed on the second side is having a child in late in the afternoon and I've got to be there. See, so many contexts. Also, I'm impatient because, well, I'm just irritated. I'm not impatient at the thing itself. I'm impatient with myself because I'm not getting results. Is my impatience due to actual slowness of time or a pressure of something else? Or I'm impatient because I'm unsatisfied with myself. I'm not performing to my expectations. Does this make sense now?
It does. I mean, it's interesting because that's actually, again, I went a completely different direction in my thinking while I was listening to it. Which is it's so funny the way everybody's brain works.
So, but the same thing though, it's just perspective shifting on what the motivations for the problem are, or the understanding of the problem, or what's causing it, or how. So the flat tire, the flat tire, they're worrying about the flat tire. It's a problem, not because they can't fix the flat tire. Well, I didn't renew my AA subscription. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble with my wife because she said, yeah, you see, I told you you need to renew it. And, now I'm going to get dirt on my clothing and I'm going to be, look bad in the next meeting. So to really understand the context that problems are not specific, they can have multiple contextual understandings. Yes.
For me, I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me was thinking about, if a tire is flat, that's only a problem in certain contexts, right?
Exactly. Oh, this is even more brilliant.
That was the direction that my brain went in, was like, okay,
brilliant.
Yes. The problem from what's actually happening. The fact that the tire is flat isn't necessarily a problem. It is a problem in certain contexts. If you have somewhere to be, if you don't have enough money to fix it, if, whatever. But in other contexts, what if you needed an excuse to stay at home and, okay, well, my tire's flat. There you go. Then it's not.
Now it's a blessing.
Right.
Yeah. Also, your flat tire might just be universal input in preventing you from catching that plane, which crashes later.
Exactly.
So this is magical though. But from the context of capital diplomacy, when somebody articulates a problem, to be able to see that this could be many, many, many different contexts, not just it's either this or that or that. No, it could be all of them put together.
Right.
Or so this is really, really useful because it allows us to come at things from different angles. And again, like you said, you know, if somebody brings up the flat tire, yeah, so what? We're not going to need this car for the next couple of days. So what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. You know, it's irrelevant right now. It's not our problem now. It's a future problem. We don't need to be discussing it now. When that comes, then we'll deal with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is very cool. Very cool. So, you know, it's what you were thinking. Doesn't matter. Makes no difference. Any problem. Doesn't matter. The same abstract methodology is there, is to look at all the various contexts in which it applies.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool. And I said, and is connected to. So the context of the flat tire is connected to the usefulness or the necessity to use the car. Right. Yes.
Right.
So it's also connected to time.
Right.
Do we need to do this now or later?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's also connected to alternative options. Do I need to use this car?
Right.
I've got a AAA card. I need to get to the airport. I call an Uber. I also call AAA and I say, look, just tow my car. I've got free towing in my AAA. Just tow it to my home and leave it there. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Easy. Right. I don't need to be present. Right. Off I go.
Well, so, okay. And I mean, you know, one of my examples, I said something about not being able to afford replacing the tire. That's another context that's connected to is if you're having a larger problem from a monetary perspective, then if that issue was taken care of, then the flat tire no longer becomes that much of an inconvenience.
Exactly. And that's often, unfortunately, when we deal with limited resources, the one problem begets other problems.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I mean, you know, you're forced to run on worn tires because you can't afford to put new ones, and it starts to cascade. Unfortunately, it's really, really tragic. And then you see, yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say that seems like a really important strategy to me from a diplomacy perspective of being able to look at a problem or a limited belief or whatever it is, something within this context, and get to the root of, well, you know, what makes that an issue in this context? Is there another step beyond that? Like, you know, I have limited resources. And if that issue is corrected or perspective shifted or something is changed, then does that take care of this other issue by implication? And you know, basically, can you kill multiple birds with one stone, for lack of a better word?
Exactly.
Particular problem, zoom out a little bit, look at, okay, if I take care of this up here, then that takes care of all of these other things.
This is essential in diplomacy. Go to the root of the problem, the thing that caused it in the first place. It's not, yes, you didn't get a flat tire because your tires were worn.
Right.
You got a flat tire either because you were negligent with maintenance, because you could have done it and you were just kind of slack, or you couldn't afford it. So this is, again, requiring real deeper diplomacy. Look at the deeper reason. Okay, you could maybe afford it, but, well, you're taking care of your mother's sister's husbands on the second side, whatever. You know, you're doing stuff that's extra. Understand the full context to really understand what's going on.
Right.
It's a very, very, very big deal to see the broader context, to see what problems are connected to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm glad we went into this. Okay, next one here. Beena, anything to add on there, by the way?
Not right now. I'm just listening.
Okay, so what do you make of this next one?
Which one?
Share some examples, Beena, of how you, Beena, have perspective shifted on something said, which is bothersome, obnoxious, downright stupid, or otherwise mind-messing.
My astrology experience in my childhood.
That's a great example.
Okay, first it was, Erica, it was that, okay, it changed my name. The second thing happened when I was around, I don't know, exactly maybe 12. I don't exactly remember that. So one of the astrologer who was a palmist also, and in the family gathering, he was like, all the females were like, okay, oh yeah, jumping over to see, tell me. And then he actually pointed out me and said that, okay, just come here. And I
Oh.
said, no. Yeah. And he says, I'm asking you to come and show your hand. And I said, I don't want to. And I become a bit rude, but still, because he was an uncle and the cousin and the family friend and all that. And everybody was like staring at me and saying that, come on, like he's asking you and come. When I went there, he was like, okay, yes, you have a very amazing mind, amazing this and that. But you have to be like, he was talking the most stupid man ever. He was talking to a child, okay, and saying that you have a very weak lifeline. So you have to be really careful, but because at certain age, you will get sick and you will die, most likely.
Wow. Holy cow.
Exactly.
I know, it's amazing.
And I'm still amazed at how a person can be so stupid.
No kidding.
Exactly. And
The room.
he said that, and I concluded as that, okay, when I have to die soon, why to bother to do anything and plan anything at all?
Right.
Yeah. So no more schoolwork for Beena.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I decided.
Yeah, but it's examples plural. So keep going with the story, Beena. That was the first perspective shift. What came later?
And it was like, okay, why to bother with anything? I will live my life as whatever because I have to die soon. That was the only thing was coming into my mind. I have to die soon, so why to bother? And I was not sharing with anyone because it was kind of like my personal stuff, and it is very close to me. And okay, it's about my life. I don't want to bother. It was all kind of self pity also involved in that, and things were just coming more and more and more. But on surface, I was just okay. If I want to sleep, I'm just sleeping for straight 14 hours. Why to bother to get up early? Right, because I have to die soon. It was like a poem. And why to bother to do anything because I have to die soon. That was the thing. And after 2 years, more than 2 years, I guess.
How old?
Yes, in that situation.
How old were you then, Beena, when he said this?
It was, I guess it was around 12. I'm not really sure about that, but yes.
Awful.
And after spending 2 years or more into that, one day out of nowhere, I just realized that, oh my God, I am the one here who has a guarantee to live at least these certain years. No one has a guarantee here.
Interesting.
So no matter what I do,
Very interesting.
jump off the cliff or do whatever I want to, I'm not gonna die before that.
That's super. Yeah, that's a super interesting perspective shift. Yeah.
And I don't know because universe just feel pity for me or whatever. This perspective shift happens to me, like, and I was like, wow, now I'm going to enjoy my life because I have the guarantee, and no matter what I do, I'm gonna live at least till then.
That's amazing.
Till I felt sick.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And what happened then?
Then okay, see, like, okay, things are coming, and I am almost in that or almost crossed that time. Yeah, the time he predicted that. But the perspective, the power of perspective shift, because I was the same person, the prediction was their same, and the association with that was same, but just the perspective shifts give me a totally new life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
Very cool.
That's amazing.
Very cool. Very cool. It's amazing how even, things that are bothersome, obnoxious, downright stupid, or otherwise mind messing can really be transformative. So my example on this is when I had the restaurant in Sea Point in Cape Town, the door were two very tall double doors, and each door was just wider, just a one-person door. So they were each individual door was narrow. And of course, people pulled open the one side and would come in. And then there was about, let's see, about 4 yards of basically sort of a narrow, it's not quite the passageway, but it's part of the entrance hall. There's a big fish tank on one side and sort of an alcove on the other side. And anyway, and then you came into the restaurant, it opened up before you, and just around the corner of that, there was the desk with the cash register. So anyway, so we were very busy during season time, and we had long queues, 20, 30 people, if not more, right outside the doors, kind of a little canopy thing. Okay. So peak season in that area. Peak season, it's Christmas, New Year, it's all, and summer, so it's all messed up together. And absolutely every restaurant is full for those, that month around Christmas. So people would come in, and you got the line standing, and then every night, doesn't matter, boy. I don't know how many times this happened, but at least, more than a couple times. Somebody would come through, excuse me. They'd edge past, because it's a narrow line, right? There's only space really for the line and then somebody on the side. And, people they don't always stand neatly. So, they spread out a little bit. So, excuse me. They come all the way past all this, a couple of dozen people waiting in line. And now they get to me, right? What can I do for you? Is the whole line over here? Why aren't you standing in the back of the line? No. Before they go and stand in the back of the line, they have a question to ask. I promise you, unless I've told you the story before, I think if you were to just say to somebody, the average person, now guess what is the one question that every time they ask me, the exact same question. What would you expect them to ask?
What's the line for? Or do I need to stand in line or something?
Okay, those are obvious stupid questions, but that's not the question that they ask. Okay. The question they ask is, the restaurant's completely chock-a-block, right? It's obviously full because there's a big line. The question they ask is, the food good here?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Excuse me. Wow. Oh, is the food good here? Right. This is now you asking of obviously the person in charge of the deal, right? So one day I had enough of this, and it's a full restaurant, and this guy comes in, same old question again. And he says, oh, is the food good here? And I stopped right there. And I said, no. What do you mean, no? He said, no, it's not. Said, what do you mean, no, it's not? I know what's coming now, right? I said, no, I'm the owner, and I should know, and I'm telling you, no, it's not. He says, but how can it not be? The restaurant is full. And he said, oh, but see, people, no, but I'm telling you, I know, I'm the owner, I should know. I'm telling you, you asked, and I'm telling you, no, it's not. He says, yes, but you've got the whole line there. And we went on for, I don't know how long, and eventually everybody in the restaurant stops talking and starts listening to us. And I just kept this going for as long as I could. The guy gets into a full-on argument with me and how the food must be good. Eventually, I'm like, why did you ask me?
Right.
And of course, everybody starts clapping. They thought it was very amusing. But I felt so bad after that. I was horrified at myself. I truly felt bad. So the question is examples of perspective shifting on something said which is bothersome, obnoxious, down, or stupid, or otherwise mind-messing, right? And I felt bad because, well, I sort of made fun of the guy's stupid question, and okay, it was very humorous, and I wasn't nasty about it. I started off a little irritated, It's like, this bloody question again. But as I went through it, I kind of hammed it up a little bit, and he didn't quite realize. So, okay, he was the unwitting foil in the comedy drama there. But I felt very, very bad because really I exploited the guy's sort of question, and as I always do, I think things through to the end. And I said, what would inspire this guy to ask this question? Now, because of the interaction, I really got to see this person. And essentially, this is somebody who has absolutely almost no trust in their ability to discern.
Right.
They don't know. They cannot gauge for themselves. They're so used to an obedience culture and being told what to do, they cannot make a decision for themselves. Furthermore, when they have made decisions for themselves, they've so often gotten into trouble because they're not particularly astute and discerning and intelligent and smart. So they make these decisions based on just surface things, and it's burnt them time and time again. So they want reassurance that their assumption that it is good, because it may have turned out that the people are waiting because, well, there's a live comedy show and the comedian is good, but the food is crap. Who knows, you know? So I really felt bad, and I realized that there is somewhat moreness to that. So ever after that, I was, you know, much more accepting of the questions. Yes, it's good, it's no problem, it's really good. Okay, thank you, and they go stand in the line, and now they wait happily too, because they don't want to be standing in the line and waiting, and it turns out, you know, so they just wanted that reassurance, mainly because they were unable to come to decisions like that for themselves. It's really fascinating. So just perspective, you know, it's a stupid question, but they wanted the reassurance. And I really felt sorry for the people who came and asked that. You know, it changed my perspective big time, big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Made me realize that there are some really innocent, very simple people in the world.
Right. Right.
And, you know, they touch my heart, as it were. So I was exceedingly compassionate, you know, on that question after that.
Yeah.
They never bothered me again. It was very cool. Never bothered me again.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that restaurant was like going to university. I was there for 4 years, but wow. I mean, so much I learned, and so much I got to apply. Capital diplomacy. I learned that when I was 15, when I first started working in restaurants. And that was a very different restaurant too, because all farmers who came there, mostly alcoholics, and you know, literally a table for 4 would bring a case of wine.
Wow.
To dinner. Yeah, wow. So, and these are all huge, big farmers. And, you know, if you, snot-nosed 15-year-old, according to them, okay, you know, so you don't get to give service, they wouldn't think twice about giving you a smack. No matter that, you know, it's assault or whatever, it won't matter to them. So, oh, hey, where's the drink I asked you for? You know, oh, we ran out of cold ones, so I put it in the fridge especially for you, so to have a cold one. Oh, thank you very much. You know, I just forgot, you know. So I learned capital diplomacy in a hurry. It's just survival necessity. Okay, have to be a little bit loose with the truth sometimes, but still, you know, my point is I'm keeping the customer happy.
Right.
You know, instead of me saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot," they don't want to hear that. It's like, yeah, it's your job to remember. But you know, in that restaurant, there were four staff members. The seating was probably about 20, about 30 or so from, yeah, maybe 40 maximum, something like that. So, but still, it was the chef, 2 kitchen assistants, and myself. That was it. So I did everything, and plus, you still had to, I had to prepare the salads and prepare the bread baskets, and there was kitchen duties involved too. You had to make Irish coffees. So you have to take the money, everything, you know. It was a hell of a job, really overworked. But still, you know, you learn to be diplomatic in Irish, especially if you want a tip as well, right?
That is true, for sure. I spent a fair amount of time working in restaurants myself. I've always said, I think that should be a requirement. Just like, you know, a lot of countries have requirements for being in the military for a certain number of years or whatever. I think there should be a requirement for a certain number of years in hospitality industry.
Exactly.
It teaches you.
I mean, you know, like almost like national service. You spend a bit of time. I would say waitressing and nursing, and in some kind of janitorial service, and also in some kind of craft maintenance service. You know, where you've got to maintain something. You know, like making sure that, like you maintain your car, some machinery of some kind. I think these are all really, really powerful experiences, which really shape your perspective and understanding and give you a deeper appreciation. But absolutely waitressing and you know, some kind of nursing or nursing assistant.
Yeah.
Very high on that. Teaching, that would be the other thing. Yes. You know, some kind of, not necessarily teaching, but, you know, managing children or so. Right. Very, very, very powerful. Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. Exciting. But you don't have to have such stuff. You can still turn out to be quite magical without such things in your life. Right, Beena?
Yes.
Yeah. But we acquire our experience in different ways. But yeah, it's very powerful, very powerful. You know, the thing that I practiced and that I was very thrilled about, the thing that stood me in most good stead was my habit since age 11 of seeing time as precious. Because we were so busy, and everything in that restaurant basically mitigated against me. The kitchen was too small, and we had too little storage space. It was just a whole mess, you know. So it was very difficult, the actual physical infrastructure. I mean, really, I suppose we had too many seats. We could have put in less, but nonetheless. So we were always over capacity and behind. I mean, service was ridiculously slow. I guess our service was probably like a half an hour. So talk about queuing. Boy, I would just walk around and I would tell my staff, makes no difference how slow it is. You walk around like absolutely nothing's wrong, like you own the place. And you would see, you'd walk past the table and the guys, and they see you being all good, and then you put it, and then just take that hand back, and oh, okay, must be okay. And then they continue chatting. Right. It's amazing how queuing in that case. And I knew the things was behind, but the queuing is what kept it together. Yeah. At any rate, the other thing that I was going to say that really helped me was time management. Mm-hmm. That's mostly what I spent my time doing, because there was always way more than I could possibly do. So I had to truly manage my time absolutely exquisitely. You know, it's people talking, to manage your awareness as well. Somebody, they always want to talk to the owner. It's a big deal. Oh, I know the owner. So they always try and suck you in. Hey, I'm busy, man. I got 101 things to do. And they want to talk to you. So you got to be paying attention without looking around and paying attention to the table. So, you know, attention management, but time management especially. That was a big deal. Big deal. Very interesting. And sometimes they would even grab you to hold you, you know, like if I were your age. that was just blew my mind. But time management, that was a very big deal. Very big deal. I always try to tell the staff, get ahead. Right. Don't be reacting. Be ahead of the game. Anticipate what's coming. And don't, you know, they would have a break. And they would just kind of stand there. It's like, dude, you got lots of stuff to do. You know, you can, you know, whatever. There's always stuff that you can prepare ahead of time. I forget the details, but always 101 things you could do. No, they would wait until they needed to do it and then do it. Mm-hmm. Of course, you're behind. Anyway, I digress. Absolutely. All right. So the next tasks and exercises, did these also or not?
I did. So interesting.
Oh, okay. Let's hear.
Okay, so when we are respectful to someone who's behaving poorly or caught in an immersion bubble, what are we respectful to?
Nice question.
I said, I really liked the perspective from the slides about this regarding being respectful to and considering the idea that each perspective, no matter how nonsensical to me in my bubble, is a representation of the vast difference and uniqueness of the universe. I think in this way, I see being respectful to someone who's behaving poorly as showing respect and true appreciation for difference and of things beyond our understanding or belief. We don't have to have respect for the individual or their beliefs necessarily, but rather we can respect the universe and all the things which we have yet to understand.
Exactly. And the example of the poor luckless, hapless fellow who came and asked me, is the food good? Yeah. And it's the exact same wording, by the way. Exactly like that. Is the food good? Yeah. Every single time. It's amazing. It's like they went to school somewhere and learned this stuff. Anyway. But so in future, though, after that, I was being respectful to their earnestness. Right. I was being respectful to their insecurity. Yes. I was being respectful to their lack of confidence. I was respectful to them wanting reassurance. I was respectful to them essentially being children of the world, because that's really what I saw. They were children lost in this big wide world, you know.
Right. Yeah, I loved that concept of even the most nonsensical craziness is somehow a reflection or a representation of the total vast possibility of the universe. That, you know, this person is just an expression of one tiny little piece of the universe, and I don't have to respect what they're saying or even them necessarily, but if, you know, at a minimum, I can have respect for the fact that they are expressing some part of the universe in some way.
Exactly, and that they are a constituent element of the universe.
Right. And I love that. I love that concept.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether the atom is a part of the atom bomb or of my coffee or of something profound. It makes no difference. I respect the atom either way.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Yes, I do love that. When we start to see each thing as being part of the whole, it changes everything. It changes everything. Everything serves a peculiar function. You know, and now when I tell that story, I cannot conceive anymore. It almost sounds unreal to me. It does actually sound unreal that people would ask that question. But you know, it's such a concise, precise thing, and I've written it down that I can't doubt my memory. But if I had not done that and not told the story multiple times, I would completely doubt my memory. Really, seriously,
Right.
it just seems completely unreal to me now.
It is,
But I can
yeah,
still picture where I was standing too, though.
kind of ridiculous. Yeah, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Something else. Something else.
It makes sense in their bubble, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And yes, think though, that's the magic. Look at this. Let's zoom out here. What was the fantastic lesson of this for me from the universe? If it was one person who did this or every now and then, no, but this was regular, multiple times every night. I mean, we had queues outside the door every single night. And well, the average price of a lobster at that time, we called them crayfish there because they were the two claws, not the one. The crayfish, not lobster. But anyway, same thing essentially. The average price was $20, and I put it on. And initially I put it on special for $4.95.
wow.
An entire whole lobster, yes, not a little rinky-dink one too, a decent sized one. So yeah, so I mean, it was a loss leader. So of course we had queues coming out the door. But even in the second and the third season, it gradually went up to like $6.95, $9.95, $11, $12.95, somewhere around there. So it was still a special. So we still had lots of business. But so it was a big deal. I mean, it was like super, super crazy busy, and all not just for that peak season, as they would call it. We would be pretty much, 4 or 5 months of the year, most of the summer and the fall. Yeah, I guess some of the spring too, except in winter. We were always very busy. So, but this was a consistent thing, So but the lesson of it is that when you just look past your assumptions,
Right.
there's a moreness to it. And
Yeah.
the fact that it is so common made me realize that there's a moreness to this.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
That was what I was thinking was, never assume that your beliefs or perspectives are what everybody else is thinking or are right or correct. It's
Exactly.
you never know.
Right. Exactly. My biggest takeaway from that actually was when people are being absurdly stupid, pay attention. There's usually a reason you don't perceive behind this. People seldom are ridiculously stupid.
Right.
Yes. When they say, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Then yes, they are. But, not always is it that case.
Oh, I like it.
That's a purely American thing, by the way. No kid I ever grew up with would dare to say that, would even conceive of saying that, would even imagine saying that. No, never,
Yeah.
never, no ways. Beena, have you ever been on a fairly longish trip in a car, more than an hour or two with kids?
Yes.
And did any of the kids ever say, are we there yet?
Yeah.
They did say that, really?
Mm.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
That's surprising to hear. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. When I was a kid, never, ever. I'm surprised to hear that. Did they pick this up from, is it in the American way, or is it they say it, naturally?
Naturally, it was.
Wow. In that same obnoxious way? Really?
Obnoxious way, but yes. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. No, you get a smack if you were to say something like that when I was a kid. There's no way. Unless maybe kids did it and I didn't know. But the first time I saw that on TV, I'm like, seriously, what? Are you crazy? I never thought this was real. I thought it's just some exaggeration of TV. That took quite a while, by the way, when TV came up and you watched American sitcoms and stuff. You just assumed that it was fantasy. And then, after a while, you realize, no, the stuff's actually not all that fantastical. It's quite realistic. That was really a shock. It was really a shock. I'm really surprised to hear that, Beena, that the kids say that. Now, I don't mean as a polite inquiry, but that kind of essentially the whining brattishness of are we there yet? As an expression of frustration and impatience. Yeah, Beena, they say it in that way? Really?
It was like in a subtle way, yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's really intriguing. Well, over time, though, the ages and the eras, I would imagine now you would see more of it in South Africa. It's a different age, different era. But yeah, but again, it's fascinating how it's become something that's almost expected by parents of kids, and I think they cue this to a large extent.
Right. Sure. Very true.
They're very careful. Still, my point though is that again, when we look at now stupid behavior in the context of it being cued, it's not so stupid whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing something which I'm expected to do, and I'm being good. It's not stupid. So
Right.
it's quite fascinating. It's really, really, really fascinating when we look at it in that context. I've always paid particular attention when things seem really, really stupid. There's more going on.
Yeah.
What's the politicians and the stupid stuff they do? Joe Manchin, yes?
Who?
Joe Manchin, the Democratic senator.
I don't know if I know this person.
Okay, well, if you watch news again, pay attention. He's been recently in the news again because he's again in the focus for essentially obstructing a gun law legislation on gun laws to reform gun legislation.
Oh, okay.
But he's a Democratic senator, and he was the guy that prevented the legislation from passing after Sandy.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Now you look at this and you say, what in the hell is going on? You just think this guy is being unbelievably stupid. But of course, when you dig a little bit deeper, you say no. And, if you can't see a political motivation, you've got to figure out there's some other reason behind it.
Right.
And a blackmail. I've never heard him on TV say, what's going on here? Surely this guy must be being blackmailed because there's no logical reason for doing this. It doesn't benefit his constituents, nothing, So it always intrigues me that when you look at things from this deeper context, you see things in a whole different light, And some people like Rand Paul, they're just obstreperous because they just like being getting attention.
Right.
It's not stupid, the behavior. There's a logic to it. They like to get attention. Look at me. I can uphold things. Look at me. I can be a maverick. I can go against everybody and stand on my own 2 feet because he's a little small guy. I bet he's got this Napoleonic complex to him,
Right.
just to say, I have this power, just amazing. So there's always a logic. It's always a logic. It's very, very useful to look for where it actually makes real legitimate sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes even those reasons that you think like petty ego reasons, even those fall away. And it's like,
Right.
okay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. How do we use patience to be gentle?
I should probably jump off of here because I'm over my time.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The
it's all
time
good.
went so quickly. The time went so quickly. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so enjoying that. It was all sucked in. I forgot all about the time.
I know.
It feels like we've been busy to me, and like we're about 12 minutes in now.
I love it. I love it.
Fantastic.
I've got to get Mom's coming up here tomorrow. Supposedly, we'll see if that actually pans out. But so I've got some things I've got to get ready
Give
for.
her a hug for us and draw some drawings with her.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That'd be very fun, I think.
Yeah.
A bit of art together. That'd be really cool. That'd be very cool.
Okay. That's
Bye-bye, Erica.
Okay.
Bye-bye, Erica.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Erica. Bye.
So brilliant. So brilliant.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Wow.
Recording.
New shirt.
That was
Mhm.